I think the thing that I liked the most about Zoe was she didn't have an idea. I mean, she had a very specific idea of Sarah, but she didn't bombard me with her idea. She sort of allowed me to get to her own idea, like a good director. I think she asked me a lot of questions, and I sort of came up with all of these ideas, and then she would pretty much be like, I like that. I'm not a big fan of that. I think that can get a little troublesome in this part of the script. And I think it was a true collaboration between the both of us. And we landed on, I think, what would have been her original idea. I think she just wanted me to get there, and I appreciate that from her. And I think the reason she's like that is because, you know, she's also an actress and understands that at the end of the day, who's going to portray her and who's going to really live in her skin is me, and I need to feel comfortable with it. So she really sort of gave me just a free rein to sort of explore. I guess it's about a group of young girls that have this great idea that they're gonna go and have this amazing weekend, sort of like the weekend of their lives, with this guy named Slater King. And this guy is very wealthy and famous and powerful. And for those three reasons, I think all the girls are like, oh, I'm safe. I'm so safe. This guy's so famous, so rich. Like, oh, he's Slater King. Of course I'm gonna be safe. And I think they think that for multiple days. And I think that the movie takes a big turn when we do get to the island, and both Sarah and Frida start, well, Jess and Frida, and then Sarah sort of joins, start figuring out that they aren't so safe and that they are being taken advantage without their knowledge. And then it becomes a movie of sort of getting that power back. And what does that mean to get that power back? Sarah's this woman that had, you know, so many dreams and so many aspirations to potentially become an actress or become a writer, or she just really wanted to have like acceptance, I think, from the world, and ended up becoming part of this Survivor, like hot Survivor babe show. And she did pretty good at it. But unfortunately, the show got canceled and she couldn't continue, and she couldn't get that $1 million, and she couldn't get that second season of fame. And now I think Sarah's trying to find a way to sort of make a name for herself and have a spot within this celebrity world. I think Channing is incredibly charming just by nature. I think he's so sweet and charming and kind and funny, and he's almost has this like big brother energy on set, which really makes you feel really comfortable just around him and even around Slater King. I think there's elements of Slater that are kind of bro-ish in a way. And that's been really interesting when he has to be so serious and sort of creepy because he is so inviting. I'm saying Slater. So I think he brought this really interesting element that I didn't see on the page necessarily. And seeing him live in some of these scenes is incredibly terrifying. I think Naomi brought this softness to this character and a deepness to Frida. Um, and I think doing scenes with her, she just elevates whatever is on the page every single time. I can imagine how a scene's gonna play, and then I look or lock eyes with Naomi, and she sort of transports me to somewhere so much deeper than what was in the page. And I think both of them together are, you almost want them to work. They're incredibly, their chemistry is wonderful to watch, and both on and off set they're like great friends, and on screen they're magnetic, which is so infuriating the more and more you watch it. I think what sort of allures the women to go to this island is the beauty. It's the almost how private it is, how, you know, not that many people in the world get to be in this island or be a part of this group. There's like an elite status that you feel when you hear the island. It's like the VIP of the VIPs. So I think arriving to this island, it sort of is euphoric for everyone there. And I think what makes it so dangerous and what makes it so terrifying is the fact that you feel so safe, is the fact that you're with, you know, this powerful, famous guy who will never do anything because he is so famous. If he does something wrong, he'll ruin his whole life. So it's impossible. And I think that there's an element of fear there, but there's another element of there's nowhere to go. You got on a plane, you landed on this island, you have no idea what country you're in, you have no idea how to get out. There's no self-service, and there's the seclusion of this island is what makes the realization that we are completely stuck and we have no way out. And that is sort of what drives the second act of the film.
Jess is kind of the whistleblower, if you will. She's the first person to kind of awaken. So throughout the movie, you kind of think she's losing it, but then you find out she's actually been saying the truth the whole time. So it was a really fun thing to play, but you know, I'm also slightly out of sync with the other characters for a big chunk of the movie, which was also really fun to play because I kind of have a different storyline happening. Jess is the kind of person, I think she's always up for a good time. She's like a struggling actor. I think she's used to being really clowny and like always making people laugh, even if she's kind of lonely. She's always the person who wants to be, you know, just like the funny one in the group, but sometimes when you play that role in life, you don't ask for what you need. So I think, you know, there's aspects of her relationship with Frida where it's kind of like they're good friends, but Frida's kind of like a mean best friend to her sometimes, where she's like, you got to do this for me. And Jess just kind of is like, okay, and always follows Frida on her adventures. And in this case, it takes her somewhere really dark. I think she's someone who's not super trusting right away. And so I think for her to go on this journey at the beginning is like challenging for her. And you know, she's someone who's not from wealth, and so I think this whole world of Slater King is very surreal and something that she's drawn to at first, but then quickly sees through it. Slater King is played by Channing Tatum, and he's like a billionaire tech, you know, savior of the world type of guy that I think to most of the world, they think he's a hell of a dude. But he's actually quite a sick person who has scientific ways of, you know, logisticizing things and making himself feel better about the choices he makes, I think, because he's doing it for a greater purpose and a deep curiosity. But yeah, he's a very dangerous man. Frida is played by Naomi Ackie, brilliant actress. And I think Frida's like she's a very lovable, you know, kind of lighthearted, spiritual person. But I think she has a darker side to her that she doesn't reveal for a while, even to Jess, who's like her closest friend supposedly. I think Frida has goals and she doesn't care if anything stands in the way. She'll get it. And I think this movie shows her arc obviously the most about someone who's, you know, playing dumb a little bit, like most women have to get the things that they want. And she's fierce as hell, you know. It's about a couple of girls who go to a rich man's island on what they think is a casual holiday. and turns out to be a lot more. When you make stories like this, I think it's important to remember that it is about power, and that power can't be given, it has to be taken. And so I think that's, one of the strongest themes of this film is it's about a woman taking her power instead of just trying to be a savior, and like women always having to be like victims who escape and survive. It's like maybe they take more to get back what they lost, Knowing Zoe for so long, I was so proud of her for obviously pulling this all together and getting such an amazing cast and crew. But the thing I'm most proud of is the way that she handles herself on set. She's very particular about what she wants, and it's very easy for her to make decisions, which I think is one of the most important things for a director, is not to and ah about which color. It's like you have to make 1,000 choices a day. And she's very quick with that. She always gives the actors time to, for us to feel like we're getting the best performance. And I think she's a really good communicator. And I think she just has a very distinct vision, and it's all coming across. All the specificity of what she wants for this project is really translating. And as her friend, it's really satisfying to see it come to light.
When she called me one day and said, "I've been working on a treatment for a film, will you take a look?" I was very excited, and I read a document that she and Eric Feigenbaum had written. It was probably about 10 pages, and I flipped out. I thought right away that it was one of the most unique, original, exciting things I had ever read. It was before the Me Too movement had started. There had been no Harvey Weinstein, there had been no Jeffrey Epstein, there had been none of that. And she and Eric sent me this idea for a horror film. And I felt right away that this could absolutely be incredibly huge. One of the things that I'm most excited about on this production is our extraordinary cast. We have 12 to 13 of the ensemble members, of our top cast members, and it has turned out, in my humble opinion, that every single one of them is completely spectacular. They inhabit their characters, they define their roles, and I'm just in awe night after night, scene after scene. Every one of them just kills it. So I feel like, literally and figuratively, kills it. So I feel like that's going to be something, and I hope that audiences are really going to respond to and really going to relate to, that the characters are all so well drawn, so interesting, so deep, so evil in some ways, so interesting in others, but every single actor is bringing just incredible performance skills to their roles. Frida, Naomi Ackie, who the world is going to know who she is. She's just really at the start of her career, just extraordinarily talented, bringing such depth to the role, but also such humor, really everything. And then she's got a big job because she's playing opposite Channing Tatum, her co-star. And this is really, in many ways, a very different role for Channing. One of the other things that really excites me about this cast is that it's the whole range from really famous Academy Award-winning movie stars like Geena Davis, hugely impactful television stars, Kyle MacLachlan from Twin Peaks, actors that are household names, Christian Slater, Haley Joel Osment since The Sixth Sense, for goodness sakes, going on to a list of people that are just starting their careers, that you don't know yet, that you haven't fallen in love with, but I think you will once you meet them all, and then also actors in the middle. So it's a full range of actors that are giving these incredible performances And they've really gelled together. This ensemble is so special. It feels really like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see this many cast members having such a great vibe together and really inhabiting their roles. So it couldn't really be better as far as the casting goes. It's all coming together. You know, that's what you really, as a producer, that's what I really look for in a film, is when you walk on the set and you see the lighting, the cinematography, the production design, the costume design, and you feel like, oh, everyone has the same movie in their minds. They know what they're here to do. They know what the film is that they're making. And really that's because of Zoë and her vision for the film and what she wanted this movie to be. I've produced a lot of films at this point. I'm incredibly proud of many, if not all of the movies I produced, but this has really been a once-in-a-lifetime magical experience. I think the combination of being here together in this remote, beautiful part of the world with this cast, with this crew, with Zoë, with this project, what we're doing being so beautiful and passionate and also so scary and relevant all at the same time, it's really brought an incredible dimension to the work. I feel so much, it's been so all-encompassing. You know, we're here, we're all together, we're focused on nothing but the making of this film. And it's also been incredibly challenging, which has sort of added to the power of it all. We're trying to do so much more than we have the time for, that we have the money for, and it's not stopping us. You know, we have this vision of this incredible film we want to deliver to audiences around the world. So we're not accepting limitations, and we're trying to make this film that is very special, is very magical, and that you won't have seen anything like it before. My hope is that we're doing it, that we've achieved that dream, but wow, it's been a lot of work. It's taken everything that every one of us has. It's taken the American and the Mexican crew to have worked together, to figure out a way in both languages to get on the same page and have the same vision and get this extraordinary story told. So it's really been, for me, the journey of a lifetime to get this movie made. One of the most revealing and phenomenal aspects of this movie for me has been watching Zoë Kravitz inhabit the role of director. This is the first film that she's directed. I've had the chance to work with Steven Spielberg and Gus Van Sant and Tim Burton and David O. Russell and many other incredible directors, and Zoë is in a class with all of them. She has everything it takes to be a visionary director. It's been so thrilling to watch her inhabit the job. Every aspect of the film she's involved with, the performances, the look, the production. She wants to be part of every decision, and it shows. That's how, in my opinion, great movies get made, is when you have someone at the helm who's involved in every aspect of the film, and that's Zoë. So it's been really exhilarating for me to be a part of her first film that she's directed, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what she has in store for this incredible directing career that I feel she has in front of her.
The movie is designed to take the characters, you know, your main character Frida and Jess, but like to take these people on this journey that kind of is too good to be true. You know, and this is one of those moments where you're just like, oh, it is too good to be true, and like, but wait, why? What's happening? What's going on? This is like a really kind of mysteriously, I don't know, invasive feeling that kind of comes into the movie, and it comes into the characters' minds and their awareness as well, and it kind of has to come to a head at some point. Zoë Kravitz is directing this movie, and you know, us as actors that have directed or want to direct, you know, we get lots of directors step on their first movie never having been on a movie set, and like we get, I guess, the privilege to have worked with a lot of really good directors, and get to cherry pick of, like, you know, process and things, and you know, Zoe's worked with some really talented people, and I think all of that is it's a plus, but at the end of the day, every single movie, in my opinion, is just a mirror of the director, and I really think that this movie's a perfect example. Like, Zoe's insanely smart, like, you know, but she's also very stylish and incredibly clever. Like, she's one of the more clever people that I've ever met. She leads from a place that isn't just all heart, and it's not all just brain, you know, it's something else. It's like the mix of the two, and that's what the movie really feels like. It's very smart, but it's also, it has a lot of, like, I don't know, real world, like, experience and emotion in it that is not romanticized on any level, but it stays, like, in the pocket of I think what Zoe's experience is in the world. I play Slater King. He's a tech sort of billionaire kind of guy, and probably got a lot of money at a time where, you know, there were no rules. You know, when you get a lot of money at a young age, like, you know, there's no playbook or rule book that tells you how to do it. Frida is our main character that we get to go into this, you know, this story or this journey with, and I think she's just like everybody else that is probably trying to figure out how to make money, whether it's like a bunch of different hustles, and really just is tired and wants a fucking vacation, and like this opportunity comes by that is just like what, like the person that you kind of admire from afar all of a sudden just like looks at you, and like it, of course, like you're just like, oh my God, it's happening. I mean, I could sit here and talk about Naomi for hours. I mean, but the easiest way to say it is just that she's probably one of the more talented people that I think I've ever worked with. Like, she can kind of do it all and does it weirdly effortlessly. Like, you know, she'll just drop into a perfect English American accent, like no problem, and just keep it going. And then like she'll be like, I want to find like a person to actually, like, you know, kind of start to like mimic so she doesn't feel so standard. And then we can just cry perfectly crocodile tears on command. I mean, but she's also super funny and just vulnerable. I think that her real character and her real like humanness, I think, is like one of the biggest, I think, weapons that she has as like a creator. She's so sweet and so humanly like vulnerable that I think it just kind of oozes through every single scene. Slater and probably like people that even I think kind of live like this, you have the intention of what you want it to be. You like want it to be like really clean and nice, and like the experience to be like all taken care of. But it's hard. You better always ask yourself, like, why is this happening? Like, what is the purpose? What's the intention behind it all? And I think that's where our movie is very specifically, you know, telling you that, you know, things are not as they seem. Alia Shawkat, that plays Jess, she's kind of one of my favorite characters. Like, and because of what she brings in such little scenes, and Alia's just she's so good. Like, she just has that. I guess just like the fabric of her, you just love her. God, Geena, I mean, she was such a, like, kind of an outlier. Like, I didn't, like, it was so cool that she wanted to come and do this movie because of who she is, one, just as an actress, but for her to, like, sign on and, like, to connect with Zoe and know what this movie means and to, like, kind of co-sign what it's saying, it was so huge. And she does so much in such few amount of scenes. She's just such a pro, like an incredible pro, knew exactly her role. And I think us young, or I mean, I guess I'm not young anymore, but like, I think, you know, just the younger actors on the movie, we all need to like really take note and take the lessons that they give, because they packed so much character, so much story into every single like line, every movement, every single thing. Slater is the same thing. Christian Slater, I mean, it's such an honor to get to watch them do their thing. Simon's he's just so free, man. He's just such a team player. He was just like, what do you need? You know, and yeah, man, I like love what I do, and like I want to do it, and I want to do it as well as I can. I want to give you as much as I possibly can to be able to paint your picture with. And Simon's exactly that. He's just like, he wants it. He's constant. He created so much that didn't end up getting in the movie, just because like you could have made the whole movie about his character and the food that he was making. You know, like we would get voice notes from him before we even got there. That was just these like long sort of like I don't know if he was improvising or if he had like kind of written them or what, but they were genius. Like him just talking about food. I still have them. They're insane, but they're genius in the same sense. Adria like brings like she's just so like witty. Like she's such a clever person as well, and like knew that part and like kind of, you know, it's a real thing, I think, to be able to come in and know that you have to be the catty girl that sort of is unapologetically sort of going after your man and like doesn't like you because you guys are like you're gonna be competing for the same thing essentially. And to do that in a way that it was so confidently done and so unapologetically, like kind of just being like, yeah, this is a cat fight and we are literally gonna fight this out, and do it in a fun way. And I think really understood how to do that. It was awesome to get to watch.
During my time spent with Zoe, not just once, but I was her security officer twice for two of the different scouting trips to Mexico. And during those times, you know, I'd come to admire her abilities as a very, very new director. I've worked with many directors and executives, and you know, for being a very new director, she was about as good as you get. She was already hitting. She was already making decisions and negotiating things that I've seen all the people with years of experience do. So I had a lot of admiration for her, and when it first came to my attention, I was a little concerned that if I took this job not having the experience that the rest of the cast has, that I might hinder the production or slow it down. So I was a little concerned about that. But then after talking about it for a while, they kind of put me at ease, and I read for it, and I got the spot. To describe Stan, I guess it's kind of how I am. I'm pretty mellow. There's not tons of emotion. Sometimes people think that I'm angry about something, and I'm not. I just try to be professional, because in the industry, executives, they don't need someone to talk to them or be very friendly, overly friendly. They don't need them conversation. They have a job to do, and they just need someone in the passenger seat of their car to make sure that they get to where they're going. If things get nasty, if things get bad, that's when I come into play. Otherwise, I'm just somebody that needs to be into the background, someone that really shouldn't be noticed at all. Hopefully forever, unless, like I said, unless something bad happens. Channing Tatum is playing Slater King, and Slater King is, like his last name states, he's basically almost a king. He's developed his own world, not just the island, where he is absolute king and the absolute power on the island, but even when he's not on the island, he has so much influence and so much money, basically, that he can kind of do whatever he would like to a certain degree. And then when all of that moves to the island, it's absolute. And that's basically the storyline. Working with Channing Tatum has been great. Zoe, as a director, absolutely amazing. But when we're all on the stage and there's things going on, he's very, very good at, especially for someone new like myself, if I don't understand something or if I'm doing something that's not quite right, he is right there beside you, great attitude, helping you through it. When we're working the night shift, when we're working the night shoots, the energy level starts to drop a little bit. He won't have any of that. He's always lively, always working with people, always trying to find ways to keep the energy level up. Stan's role in the story is the enforcer. So like I mentioned before, security, he should be in the background. He shouldn't be heard from. He should just be there in case something really bad happens, and then his job kind of comes into play. So any security, any law enforcement, anybody that's involved in something like that, they follow rules, they follow laws. So for example, for law enforcement, there's the city provides the laws, the state, the county, federal laws, there's all these laws. Well, on the island, the laws come from Slater King. He is the king. So they're not always moral. In fact, quite often they're not moral. But Stan is 100% involved in enforcing whatever Slater King thinks needs to be done.
A young woman by the name of Frida, played by Naomi Ackie, kind of maneuvers her way into the life of a very powerful, very rich billionaire, tech god kind of guy. And they hit it off, they have an immediate connection, and they get, she and her friend Jess, played by Alia Shawkat, get invited to his private island to spend some time and kind of hang out and party. And they very quickly figure out that there are things outside of the scope of what they were expecting to find on this island. As we were developing the story, it turned very quickly from a story about sexual politics to a story about power in general, and watching that develop in the context of the story kind of got us into the space of exploring what it meant to what people will do to gain power, what people will do when they lose power, what the dynamics between individuals are that get us to a point of occasionally doing terrible things to each other in the quest for power. The first thing she brought was being the genesis of the story itself, and she came at it with this verve and with this passion for what the story is and what the story can be. And over the course of 5 years, as it's been developing, now I've seen her grow into first-time director like I've never seen a director before. It's insane what she's accomplished, and she is somebody of such a singular drive and such a singular vision, and she brings an unrelenting ideology to what this story is. Everybody here believes in her so much, and watching her be a leader and drive this all the way down the pike it's really inspiring. We have Naomi Ackie as Frida, who is a performer like I've never seen before in my life. Her passion and her subtlety and her ability to encapsulate some really, really difficult and sometimes confounding moments within the context of the life of this character are amazing. We have Channing Tatum, of course, who plays a kind of complicated billionaire whom we learn more and more about as we move through the story. We have Alia Shawkat playing Jess, who is Frida's best friend, who I think is quite an empathic character and pretty interested in helping Frida go through this journey. It's an ensemble cast, so it's hard to like go through everybody, but we have Adria Arjona playing Sarah. She's amazing. We have Simon Rex playing a character named Cody. Cody is Slater's best friend, Slater King's best friend from childhood. We have Liz and True, and I can't go through all of this. There's too many characters. It's an ensemble cast, and what amazing. Okay, so I'll say in general that watching this cast get together and love each other immediately on this extreme level and really build a lot of trust with one another and figure out how to put on this freaking crazy show that we've tried to put together here. And then we've added now Christian Slater, and we have Kyle Maclachlan, and we have Geena Davis. It's an amazing cast. I don't really know more. I can't get into details on it because it's just too much. There are too many things that are special about making this movie, from the subject matter to its social imports to the thing that it has to say about who we are as human beings and how we interact with one another and how we use our power with one another, to the location, to the incredible cast that's been assembled, to the fact that Zoe and I have been working on this script for 5 solid years and working and rewriting to get it to this point. Everybody here feels like they're on a really special journey with one another, and watching them be in this space together and have this kind of energy and passion for a film like this, for a film about a difficult, very, very hard to wrap your head around subject matter, it's incredible.
So when I first read the script, it was immediately special. It was unlike anything I've ever read. It was fun, it was a party, it was scary, thriller. It was all fun characters, all really different and heightened but real at the same time. A lot of really fun contradictions that are gonna make for the exact kind of movie that I love. This is a film about power, and it's played through the eyes of Frida, who's a cocktail waitress who is scraping by and working an event at this beautiful gala for the King Foundation, which is Slater King, philanthropist, billionaire, handsomest man on earth, played by Channing Tatum. And she's infatuated by him and sort of finesses her way into his inner circle and gets an invite to his private island to go party. And once she gets there, things are not exactly what they seem. Slater King's being played by the iconic Channing Tatum, who is bringing something totally new to this role that he's never really done before, which is this really terrifying and electric balance of being intimidating and scary and sharply intellectual and also very primal and fun and charming all at once. So Frida's being played by Naomi Ackie, who is a mind-blowingly talented actress. And every day she brings a depth to this role that, you know, goes so far beyond our wildest dreams. Every little movement that she does, you can find powerful meaning in it. She's one of the greatest actresses I've ever seen. So Stacy's played by Geena Davis, the legend, and she's brought so much fun to the role where Stacy is super neurotic and always not wanting to interrupt but saying a little too much, and every time Geena comes on screen, she completely takes over, and it's so much fun to watch her do her thing. The energy on set is unlike anything I've ever experienced on another movie. Everyone in the cast is so fun and sweet, and we're having such a good time, and they're having such a good time with each other, to the point where the other day we were shooting the gala, and at the end of the night we needed to shoot a little bit of them dancing, and Zoe played some music, and they just went nuts. And you can't fake that. You know, the chemistry between all of them is electric. Working with Zoe is incredible. She's such a serious director and a loving leader. She cares about every single person on the set, and yet is so serious about her craft and manages to uphold both every day. It's been an absolute honor to work with her, and I'm so proud of what she's done.
I play Stacy, who is sort of the all-around girl Friday. You know, I kind of do everything and nothing. She is quite scattered. In fact, very clumsy, and we don't know quite why that is happening, but you find out later why she's so profoundly clumsy. But in the meantime, I get to be really funny. I mean, I think the character's very funny. Channing Tatum is playing Slater King, who is kind of like a movie star, but he's not really. But he's incredibly wealthy and charismatic, and has that kind of impact on people where they're like swept away by how gorgeous and charismatic he is. So he has a very powerful effect on people. Zoe, you know, I've been an enormous fan of before I met her, but she's just amazing. I mean, she not only directs the film, she co-wrote it, and her talent and focus and confidence, her calm sort of confidence is remarkable. It really, I mean, it helps so much in a movie like this with so many characters and such an unusual plot. She's really just a revelation, I think. Well, the snakes are interesting because at first it's just merely that there are these slightly poisonous snakes all over the island, and there's a basket of dead snakes, and so it seems just like there's a sort of snake problem, in the snake population problem on the island. But the snakes turn out to be integral to the plot. I think that will be very surprised. There's quite a turn that happens in this movie, which I didn't expect when I was reading it, or the title didn't indicate was going to happen. So I hope that they're like, wow, that was wild. Yeah, that's what I hope they think.
It was fun because the script left a lot of room for a lot of characters to sort of fill in what their backstory was and how they related to each other. And because they play with chronology in this story, you know, just how people got to know each other. And Channing's character, Slater, is always sort of, he has a bunch of experiments going on at the same time with the people around him. He's always doing something to explore the psychology or something with the people around him and manipulate the people around him, even though I think, like most good villains, spoiler alert, he believes he's doing something good and doing something noble and pushing humanity and, you know, consciousness into new realms. Channing Tatum plays Slater King, who is a tech titan, and he runs into these two women at a charity function that his foundation is running, and they really hit it off with him and his entourage, and they all decide to hop on his jet and fly to his private island for some R&R. And while they're there, there's a lot of chemistry between Frida, Naomi Ackie's character, and Slater, and a little bit of tension between her and the other women on the island. There's a sense of competition between them on Slater's property. And then things sort of take some unexpected turns, and you start to see the real game being revealed and the gaslighting that's going on in a lot of ways in this place that seems like this luxe paradise. My character is Tom, who was an ex-sitcom star whose life has taken some depressing turns and is embroiled in this ugly divorce and just has all kinds of personal problems. And Slater has taken him under his wing as one of his projects, his human projects, to try and kind of fix him and get him to believe in himself and improve himself and you know, make some positive physical changes in his life. And I think my character is really enamored with him at the same time that he sees himself as, you know, one of the gang and everything. Although he knows there's a certain line that he won't cross with Slater, and that Slater's obviously king of the mountain. I really enjoyed watching her as a director and a leader, and there was so much to learn from her. She knows exactly what she wants. We were shooting under incredibly challenging circumstances in really hot weather with a lot of different moving parts, you know, and kind of at the mercy of the weather and the natural wildlife and, you know, the hazards of being way out in the jungle and all that. But her energy and her dedication and her sense of perfection in each shot was really inspiring to watch, because we have a lot of complex things in this movie going on, and she would not rest until until the vision in her head was fulfilled, and that's a really cool thing to watch.
Zoe's vision from the get-go always, to me, was something that was like so explosive and so big that I don't think that anyone else, even if you sought out, like, you know, any number of directors, I don't think anybody else could have done what she's doing. It's an incredibly unique voice. It's very, very specific to, you know, to now. It also is very referential. She's got such a great reference of movies that she likes and music that she likes, and I don't think that there's anybody else who could take this recipe and make what she's making. This cast on screen is, I think everyone will see and agree, hopefully, that it is such a special ensemble. I wish that everybody could have experienced what we were able to experience as a crew all together, because it's just been like a summer camp. So I think all the chemistry that you see on screen is gonna, you know, be the result of like a very good time that was had by all. The casting process itself was pretty laborious, and Zoe had a lot of, she was very specific. We didn't want to, you know, settle for anybody that wasn't perfect. You know, Simon Rex playing Cody, I wish we had a 4-hour version of the director's cut so that everybody could have heard his improv, and hopefully some of the best lines making it into the movie. We've got the incomparable Christian Slater, the icon of all time, which we were so lucky to have. We've got Maclachlan, who's another massive icon, Geena Davis. We've got people from the Ridley Scott and Quentin Tarantino universes. It's just what a treat, and that doesn't even like get us to our other main support, which is we've got the incomparable Channing Tatum, who's like a lean, mean, greased and polished acting machine. We've got Alia Shawkat, who is one of the great actors of our time, and I think people will see her in a way that we haven't maybe seen her before, although she does such an incredible job with bouncing between comedy and drama, or not bouncing, but walking this perfect line that's very real, and Alia's gonna bring something very special for this. And her dance scene, my God, Alia's dance scene was one of the most surprising things. Talk about a professional. She came, she prepared that with an amazing choreographer named Sarah Silken, who I actually had the pleasure of working with something else on just before we did this. And they created this incredible thing that just, everyone was so surprised the day they did it. It kind of exploded. It's like a very special movie within a movie, but that was all Alia. Alia, choreographed and did all that herself. Well, choreographed with Sarah, but yeah. And Naomi Ackie is just, we're so privileged to have her. She's been amazing, and I think she's bringing a lot of her, deep acting experience and to this role. Yeah, working with Zoe is incredible. I've had the privilege of working with a handful of really powerful directors, people who've got command of things in their different ways. And Zoe, as a first-time director, you would never know that Zoe was a first-time director because her technical understanding of things is, well, that's still getting filled in. Her understanding or her desire to kind of master those things is incomparable. And her attention to detail is really kind of scary sometimes, but it's also amazing because she's always the first person to notice that something's off. She's the first person to have a good suggestion about, continuity or how to block something out, what shooting order to do things in, which are typically things that directors aren't always thinking about. Well, certain types of directors. So it's been a wonderful learning experience also in what it's almost like a forcing function. What are the most important things to have as elements for a performance? And I think that as an actor, she's intuitively created a process that's very actor friendly, where the mastery is happening all in front of the camera, and she's doing her best to just capture that and foster an environment where performances are really, really important.
So Slater King is being played by Channing Tatum, as we know. Slater is he's an entrepreneur, he's a philanthropist, he's a man who's very curious about the inner workings of the human mind, and he has a very special place that he likes to take guests, and he gets to observe their behavior. Frida's being played by a wonderful actress, Naomi Ackie. She is drawn to the power and the lifestyle of Slater King. She gets herself involved in his world, and we come to find out that she actually has a story of her own to tell in regards to this magical island, which I won't go into any further. Well, both Channing and Naomi are very at ease in front of the camera. I think it's one of the hallmarks, actually, of Channing. He does such a beautiful job at that. They are both highly intuitive, creative. They have a lovely, playful side. They've got great chemistry together, I think. And they make the process of filming with the other actors very, very enjoyable. I loved my I only had a few days here, but I loved my scenes both with Channing and with Naomi. It was my first film working with Geena Davis, someone who I've admired for many, many years. And funny enough, with Christian, we've known each other over the years and have socialized, and we've never worked together. So this was the first opportunity, and we shared a lot of, we kind of came up together, so we shared a lot of war stories and just reminiscence about an era and a time that is now long past. Well, Zoe's extraordinary. This is her first film, and you wouldn't know it by being on the set. She's incredibly confident. She creates a lovely environment, very creative, very light-hearted environment to create in. She is really on top of her game, lets her actors play, trusts her crew, and I just stunned by the level of competence that I see with her. I hope, and Zoe, if you're listening, I hope we get to work together again.
You read the script, and as I'm reading it, it's like kind of one of those page turners, but hopefully it'll feel like this when you watch it. But like, then the reveals that I will not spoil now, but when they start to kind of unfoil, it's just like, oh my God, heart-wrenching. And then by the time we're at the end, it's just like absolute craziness. The chickens are all out, it's nuts. Well, firstly, the character of Slater King, is going to be played by Channing Tatum, who is, in truth, I dare say, the sweetest angel of a human being I've ever met in my entire life. Like, it's rare you come across a person who just, like, feels like they're just navigating through life, just spreading joy and love in every direction they possibly can. And that is Channing. And I think that's what enabled him to play this ultra villain of Slater King. Because you're gonna meet Slater, and you just, for the whole movie to work, you gotta understand why Jess and Frida get on the plane. And it's because this guy is awesome. He's just beyond dreamboat, and he's just the cutest, sweetest, most successful baller of a human being. And that's why we all go on this trip with him. Those of us like me, Jess, and Frida that haven't been there before and are kind of dealing with this, is because we fall in love with him. And that's what like happened being on this set, and that's what hopefully is gonna happen in the movie. Besides the fact that Zoe is most definitely the coolest person I've ever met in my entire life, she is so immensely passionate and so serious and so effective. In so many moments of this movie, it felt like there was a fire there, this shit is hitting the fan, that's exploding, and Zoe just kind of was like, okay, and just went off and attacked everything with ferocity and her baller, badass superpower that she just carries with her wherever she goes. What we want audience to experience during this film, because like, I think in a lot of ways it's kind of gonna be what hopefully it felt like to make this movie, in which you're there, you're having a laugh, it can kind of feel just like the lightest thing in the world, make you feel like you're on vacation, that wonderful feeling, but then it turns so dark, and we want to take it as seriously as we can, but there's a context. Working on this, at a lot of times, despite how awful parts of it were, felt really healing. And I hope that seeing this movie, and not only in its revenge, but like in depicting stuff that as a society we don't want to look at, in a serious and hopefully beautiful and heavy and meaningful way, can make people look at their greatest fears in the eye, and as a guy and a girl, and realize the horror of that situation, and the way that horror can get diluted with comedy just like it does in real life, and see the ways that that has to be changed.
The script was amazing, and it was very visceral, and it made me cry to the point where I had to put it away and take it up again. Yeah, it's hard to describe Camilla. She reminds me of a lot of the people, a lot of the women that I met growing up in high school. She's strong and she's nurturing and she stands up for what she believes in. She brings vision and she knows what she wants. And that's something I really look up to.
I think that in reading the script, Zoe had managed to create a character that was really complex, given the context of the story. I'm a big fan, she's a really big fan of genre films. And so kind of exploring this idea of power and power dynamics within the scope of a private island and a billionaire, and it was really special. So for me, the character really spoke to me, and it was someone I felt like I already knew. Zoe is incredibly involved. Like, you know, from the beginning, there was such a care for it. This is her baby. This is what she's been working towards for about 5 years before we even started filming. Like, she's been playing with this idea for the longest time. So we were able to have many, many, many conversations up until the point where we were shooting, and then even while. So it really meant that on any given day, she had her eye on so many different details of it, from the script to the set, to costume, to hair, to makeup, and then of course like to characters, that in the end there was just a beautiful language that we had for each other and an understanding of what we wanted to achieve. And it was able to be very effortless. Like, there's so many moments where like she would say like one reference from a movie and I was like, oh, I get you. Okay, you want this. And she was like, yeah, that's what I want. And then like that kind of ease was super playful in the moment. And there was just an understanding that made it so easy to work with. So she's an incredible director, and was able to I'm sure she was so nervous, but was able to handle it with so much grace, and a real determination to communicate what she needed to communicate. This is a story about power. Like, this is about the different ways that people manipulate power, use power, want power, have power, don't have power. Like, that was the main theme. But really that can be transposed into many different ideas of what it is to have power or to not have power, and what we do with it. That was probably the biggest theme for me, and this idea of like desire, what people want, whether you should want it, whether you shouldn't. You know, following that impulse of desire was an interesting thing, especially from Frida's perspective along this journey. Blink Twice is about a woman called Frida, who is a waitress, and she is really exploring what she wants out of life and is not quite there yet. She and her best friend Jess are invited to a private island by the Slater King, and she and her best friend decide to go, and then things happen. Frida to me she's young, and she's full of determination, but she's also lost and doesn't quite know where to put that energy. I think a lot of us have been in that situation where we think what we want is actually what we want. You know, whether it's like the car or the boyfriend or the house, and actually the reality of that thing is completely different, and she is in a space of naivete, that the thing that she is really gunning for and wants is exactly what is going to make her happy. And I think on this journey she figures out that she was incorrect. I've never seen Channing perform like this, and I think that again, like, Zoe was amazing at casting because, to me, like, watching Channing in all of his movies, he's so likable and so charming, and you're on his side, and he brings that to the character. Obviously, there's this other side that we're not used to seeing Channing perform, you know, like a darker, much darker energy. But because it's Channing, he's able to grapple with both of those sides. And I think through seeing him as Slater King, you can understand why someone would, if they were invited to a private island by Slater King, would be like, yeah, great, I'm totally going. The vibe of it, the people, the kind of, that energy of just like wanting to have fun and like pushing each other to like go further and laugh louder and sing louder, and all of that stuff was really there. So, I mean, I think the film holds that energy. We genuinely, like, over those like 3 months, formed a really, really close bond, all of us. So I think that is the vibe of the private island. Slater's crew is, you know, a bunch of nice guys. They're the guys that are like friendly, and they, you know, they've got their own careers and they're down to have fun, and they say the right thing, and, you know, they're the type of people you'd want to hang out with at a party and talk to because they're interesting people. So, you know, again, Zoe did this amazing job of picking people that we already have that connection with. Like every guy in the film has, we've seen them in other things, and they're the good guys, mostly, except for when Christian Slater was in Heathers. That doesn't count, but also like that's such a likable character. But do you know what I mean? Like, I think that there's just like this feeling of like, oh, we know these guys. These are the cool guys. We know them. We're familiar with them, and that's for an audience member. But you know, I think that kind of still resonates with the characters in the film too. They're friendly. They're warm. You know, given who she is and what she stands for, seeing her in this role is amazing, and she really gave it her all and really enjoyed herself. And every time she was on set, it's just a joy to see her do her thing. So Christian Slater is a wonderful man and a wonderful performer, and he really inhabited the atmosphere of the film like incredibly well. And again, like, was so God, it's gonna get really annoying me saying this, but like, was so down for the group, like, and I think that's so important in films in general. But like, he was such a strong character that brought people together. Let alone the fact that he's an incredible actor and has been doing this for like decades now, like, and he brought all of that to the table, and still was chill to like hang out with us. So Jess is played by Alia Shawkat, and I think, you know, we play best friends in it, and so we had to kind of straight in was like, okay, tell me everything about you. Like, I need to know everything. And we found actually we had so much in common, especially with our attitude to the craft of acting and how passionate we are about it. And, you know, we were spending more or less every single day together, and it was such a joy. Like, I adored working with her so much. Yeah, we really got into our groove, and she's the person, like Jess as a character is a person Frida has the like closest connection to and closest understanding with. So that meant like I could really lean on her in the scenes, and you know, now I'm really happy that, you know, I get to call her my friend. Adria Arjona playing Sarah is, again, very good casting. Really special. I mean, she's such a special actress. She knew what needed to be delivered and was able to add so many beautiful dimensions to Sarah, who initially you could look at and be like, oh, I know exactly who you are. And she handled it with so much care and so much joy. The fun, pacey energy of this is really, really special. But then afterwards, I really hope that there are moments where the audience members can start to discuss the deeper layers of it. You know, I think it's always special when you can watch a film for many different reasons, and extrapolate it however you want to. And if it speaks to you, you can really talk about it deeper. I mean, ultimately, what I hope is that this opens up a bigger conversation about the abuse of power in all of its different situations and how people connect with that, regardless of you know, who you are, where you come from, how you identify. I think we are all victims of that same thing, and that's really what this film is talking about.
I thought the script was funny and important. I mean, it's written so on purpose, I imagine, upbeat and funny and loose, and everyone's having a good time, and in the third act, everything changes. So you're kind of getting two movies, which is fun to play because you get to do some comedic stuff and some dramatic stuff. And obviously, there's some content in this film that's very heavy and intense, and that was, quite honestly, wasn't easy to shoot. It wasn't even easy to read, and it's not even easy to talk about, but it's important, and I think that's the point. So I am willing to be a part of something for this conversation that's sort of a taboo subject. That is, it's time to have this conversation maybe on a, you know, through a movie like this. So I'm all about it. Like, if we're not pushing the envelope or envelope, depending on where you're from, how you pronounce it, what are we doing? It's about a very powerful man named Slater King, who's in the tech industry, you know, forward-thinking guy who's maybe dabbles in psychedelics and is not your average business person, who has his own private island, and he likes to party and play and live when he's not at work. And he invites his crew, me being one of them. I'm his best friend from high school and his personal chef. And we have a regular crew of rascals that go to the island and invite new people to the island, and things happen, some good, some bad, and without giving too much away, this trip goes horribly awry. It's refreshing when you meet like an A-list celebrity who's really like down to earth and normal, and he's just like an affable, cool, mellow dude who he doesn't carry himself like somebody who normally would, someone of that level of fame and notoriety and success. So it's refreshing when you meet somebody like that who's super cool. And as soon as I met him, we just like, I felt like I already knew him. Like I always say that when I meet certain people, like, oh, we would have been friends in high school. You can just tell. And he's just a really generous, cool, open guy, and he has no ego, which is so rare. You know, I know people with a lot less success and fame and talent than he has, with much bigger ego, so it's always nice. And I like watching and learning from people who are like above you, and just watching him work and how he has his producer hat on, and how he's doing more than just acting, you know. Geena is just, she's like me. She's like a kid, an adult kid. We write bad jokes on set together, like dad jokes, and she's just amazing. And Christian is just always in a good mood and likes to improv like me. Maybe we do it a little too much. Zoe sometimes, I think, has to dial us back a little because sometimes we go overboard with adding stuff that might not serve the movie, but once in a while something might work. So me and him are always kind of off camera, like, what about this? Should we try this? And we kind of run these jokes by each other. A couple of the characters become aware through some flashbacks of something that's going on, and they get hip to something's up. And so the audience is then in on it by seeing these flashbacks, and then that's when the story takes a turn, and it's like, are they tripping? There was some drugs involved. Is it a dream? Is it drugs? Is it both? Are they losing their mind? And that's when the story takes a turn to a bit of a darker side. Luckily, we shot this movie, most of the lighthearted comedic stuff first, and then we kind of got into the darker stuff later, thank God. I don't know if that was by design or what, but I think it was. But luckily that was the case, because then by the time we got to the heavy stuff, we all had bonded. You know, when you shoot a movie like this, you really kind of bond. You're with each other all day, every day. You're in the same hotel. You're stuck together. And by the time it got to the heavier stuff, we all had some form of bonding. I think they're just going to be entertained and shocked. I think they're going to have some laughs and then leave feeling sort of rattled by the theme of the movie and what you're going to go away talking about, and feel conflicted, like, I don't know how I feel right now because this is so heavy and nobody talks about this enough. But I had a good time with this movie, but this is something we need to discuss. So I think that's the point. So I think people will be entertained, and then it'll open up some discussions that need to be had.
The idea did not come to me fully formed. The idea was more of a feeling. I've been describing it like an itch that I wanted to scratch. And normally, you know, if I have a feeling that I want to exercise, you know, I will either, you know, watch a certain film or listen to a certain album or find some way to satisfy the feeling. And I think I was having a feeling that I had nowhere to put. There wasn't a song, there wasn't a film, there wasn't an answer to this thing I was feeling. And so the answer was to create the thing myself. And so I started to write. And I think it was just a combination of frustration and rage and curiosity and humor, and wanting a place to put all those things. And yeah, slowly it became what is now Blink Twice. What I was really interested in is the concept of power, and you know, we're so drawn to it. It's part of human nature, you know, and it's something that we want, and it's something that also controls us and destroys us. And in order for someone to be on top, somebody has to be on the bottom, and so it's oppressive by nature. And I was just fascinated with the concept of it, you know, what people are willing to do to get it. What do people do once they have it? How do people change once they have it? And so the concept of power was the thing that brought me to the story. It's definitely, you know, in the thriller horror genre, I would think. But, you know, in my opinion, our favorite films have elements of all the genres. But I do think that, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the thriller horror genre. I've always been, and I think I like films that keep me at the edge of my seat. I like films that I have to try and figure out what's going on, and you kind of get to engage with the movies in a different way when you're trying to put together the puzzle yourself. And I also just think because it's so heightened, these movies, like you're able to get away with so much and explore so much. And if you can get the audience on board with you, you can just kind of, you know, you can go to really wild places. So yeah, it's like a psychological thriller, which that also has elements of comedy and horror as well. This movie is about a young woman named Frida, who is a cocktail waitress, who also has a side hustle as a nail technician, a nail artist. She meets tech billionaire Slater King at his foundation, at his charity foundation. Slater is kind of on the comeback from a cancellation, so he's had a bit of a bad rep, but he's done some self-reflective work. He's gone into therapy, and now he's back, and he's doing philanthropy and things like that. And he's since bought an island so that he can kind of reconnect with nature and his friends and have a place to go where he's able to be private, because obviously he's a very public person. And Frida and him meet at the gala, have a connection, and her friend Jess get invited to the island with Slater and all his friends. And they're having a great time, so it seems. And then people start to slowly realize that there's something wrong with this place. There's something strange going on, and they have to figure out what it is. Channing Tatum plays Slater King, and I, started to write this character, and then, as you do, start to think about who would play this role, and I knew that I wanted somebody unexpected to play this role, and somebody that feels inviting, and somebody that we think we know. And, Chan is an incredibly charismatic and charming person, and I just thought how interesting it would be to watch him play something so different, someone so different. Because he is so charming and charismatic, I think he often gets asked to play roles that are very similar to each other. So that was something I was really excited to see him do. And I also just knew inherently that he was an actor that wouldn't be afraid of this role, and would want to contribute to the story as a whole. And, we developed the script together, and he produced the film as well. So we were able to really, take our time developing the story as a whole, and also the character of Slater King, which he is, he did a phenomenal job playing the role. Naomi Ackie plays Frida, and wow, what a dream. She is just a phenomenal actor. She is so smart and so quick and so prepared, and it comes so naturally to her. It just breezes out of her. Giving her a note and watching her digest a scene, it's just second nature, And when she read the script, just how quickly, again, she understood the character and understood the themes of the story and understood, what the movie was about. And the tone of the film is very specific, and where the horror was, and the vulnerability, and the comedy, and all of those things. And she's able to juggle it all so beautifully, and is also just a wonderful human being. Comes to work every day prepared and happy to be there. There's a lot going on there with Frida. I think, she definitely has her nose pressed against the glass, of this kind of dream world where everything is easy and done for you. She is somebody who pours champagne for other people, and I think it only makes sense that she fantasizes about somebody pouring champagne for her, which again is this. It's the thing I'm so interested in terms of the power. It's you don't like pouring champagne, and yet you want someone to pour champagne for you, and where does that end, and what does that mean? So I think she's drawn to that, which is absolutely okay. I mean, she's somebody who's literally told by her boss, be invisible, and who wants to be invisible? Nobody, And so she wants to be seen. She wants to be seen because she should be seen. And unfortunately, that desire does get her into a dangerous and complicated situation. And I think it's a combination of that and then also being seen by somebody that has power. And what does that mean, you know? And how does that feel for someone that never had that? I really wanted to create an environment that I personally wanted to be at, like thinking about trips I've taken with friends of mine, you know, and good conversation and good food and like home cooked meals and, you know, drugs and dancing and, you know, all of that. And so I really wanted to create a trip that I personally would want to be at. So yeah, especially, you know, I wanted when the rug gets pulled from under us, the audience, you know, we're truly bummed because we were actually having a really good time. And it's fun to watch. You feel like you're there. You feel like you know everybody. The cast truly loves each other so much, and I think you really feel that too. So it's like, it's a group of friends that you, you know, you want it to stay that way. And unfortunately, it does not. Geena Davis, legend, plays Stacy, who is Slater King's assistant. And she is, you know, someone that's worked with Slater, I think, for a long time, kind of takes on the role of a mother for him. Yeah, she just kind of like takes care of everything for Slater and is very funny and unassuming and has a, you know, a fantastic arc in the film as well. Alia Shawkat plays Jess, who is Frida's best friend and roommate, and they also work together as cocktail waitresses. And, you know, she's kind of the audience in a way. She's the one who's, you know, there and from the beginning is kind of asking all the questions that no one else is asking. You know, Frida's kind of too enamored with the world to ask these questions, and Jess is the one that's kind of, you know, sleeping with one eye open. Adria Arjona plays Sarah, who is another guest on the island who also has eyes for Slater. And so, and she's also on a reality competition show called Hot Survivor Babes. So she's kind of a reality star. And her and Frida, you know, since they both are into Slater, have a competition thing going on, which is super fun to watch. But eventually they, you know, they do get to know each other better, and it's a great friendship to watch develop. Their relationship in the movie is one of my favorites. It was great. I mean, we had a wonderful time. We all lived where we shot the film. So it was like this insane fever dream summer camp situation. And thank God we all really loved each other because we were together a lot. But it was so nice because, you know, we were isolated. We were in the middle of nowhere. But we just, you know, it really created this kind of bonding experience. We would eat meals together every day. We'd hang out on the weekends. People would, you know, come watch scenes when they weren't even, you know, in the scene that day. And, you know, we had a really wonderful time. And I think it really did, like, bond the cast in this way that really comes through in the performances. You know, everyone felt so close to each other and so safe with each other and so playful with each other. And I think it really did elevate the film as a whole. We had a really good time. Directing is wild. You really can't prepare yourself for it. I think as somebody who's been on many, many movie sets, I had zero idea what it actually took to make a film, which, you know, I guess part of that is what you want, you know, for your actors. You want them to be able to focus on what they're there to do, and, you know, you want to do everything else. And that's the way it's designed. But I'm so thankful now to just really have this real understanding of what it takes to make a movie. You know, so much prep, so much during, so much post. It's like, you know, it's like giving birth. You really have to love it. And I do. I loved the story. I love directing. I love problem solving. Trying to stay creative while in a crisis, I think, is like the director's job. And it's a great challenge. I think, when it seems like when you lose a location, or you lose an actor, or you're losing light, or it's always the race against time, and finding creative ways to deal with it, and not giving up and just doing whatever. It actually, I think, almost always leads you to something better than you originally intended. Yeah, I love it. I love directing. It's wild. I hope they have fun. I really hope people, when they watch this movie, have a good time, because, as a lover of cinema, like, that's what I want to feel when I watch a movie. I want to go and be entertained. I was thinking about filmmaking recently, and just entertainment in general. And as I'm a very heady person, I'm thinking a lot in my head all the time, as I think most of us are. And for something to truly capture your attention so that you're able to take a vacation from your own mind, I think is a major gift. So I just hope that people are able to take a break from their own brain and go on this journey and have a good time, and then have great conversations with their friends after. I think that this film is a wild ride, and I think it's a sensory experience too. This movie is about the way things look and taste and smell and feel, and so I think there's just nothing like being in a dark room where your focus is on the screen, and and it's loud. And I also think the communal experience too, with anything has jumps or any kind of emotion like that, it's so fun to watch it with other people and hear people laugh and gasp and all of